Do I think this is delightful news when it comes to Onyx? Well, I would say yes, even though nothing I say is financial advice. However, very recently, something called Chain 2.0 was talked about. However, I'll explain very soon why this relates to Onyx later, but I want to explain what this kind of did real quick because in an article talking about Chain 2.0, there was something very cool highlighted, and it was announcing how there was the launch of Chain's global infrastructure, and that was going to be for stablecoin payments, and actually, it was going to be a unified platform designed to help enterprises. Again, why does this even relate to something like Onyx? Well, it's because, first of all, if we take a look at the history of Onyx, what became Onyx, right? Chain, it rebranded to Onyx. However, also on top of that, Chain, it's part of the Onyx ecosystem. Furthermore, Chain, as an entity, basically, if we take a look at it, it recently fully upgraded to ISO 20022. So Chain has a lot of links to something like Onyx. They're still kind of very heavily sort of intertwined in a sense where even if we take a look at on Goliath, which is Onyx's layer one blockchain, even the Ethereum bridge, at least what I saw on the testnet, that was even powered by Chain. So again, there's a lot of kind of somewhat links the way I take a look at it, arguably. So of course, if Chain has something that indirectly is focused on enterprises, if it's advancing, if it's improving, I think that somewhat, again, could affect something like Onyx. So I do think this is delightful news at the end of the day when it comes to something like Onyx. Granted, though, XCN, it's around 50 times lower than 25 cents as of right now. So people may be telling me, okay, no one's going to care about this. Just take a look at how bad XCN is doing. However, my reaction is that if Chain seems to be improving, if Onyx is still allegedly working towards the mainnet of their layer one blockchain, again called Goliath, and yet again the charts are low, I'll be happily dollar cost averaging. That's pretty much about it. I'm not telling anyone to do anything though, but kind of my mindset is if I like an item anyways, which has nothing to do with this, and there's actually a discount, would I complain? The answer is no. I'm not going to be walking inside Costco or let's say going to Foot Locker and then seeing something have a discount and then me calling Foot Locker and being like, oh wow, I cannot believe there's a discount. I'm not going to be doing that. Especially if let's say the item had more features, right? If the item had more features and yet there was a discount, would I complain? The answer is no. So when I take a look at Onyx, fundamentally, it feels like it's improving, yet the charts are pretty low. I'm not going to be complaining. That's pretty much about it. But kind of my approach is more disciplined anyways, in a sense where it's not tied to short-term fun or excitement. No, it's more so kind of like a discipline-based sort of thing because I'm just dollar cost averaging once a month. That's it. It's like kind of boring. I understand that. It's nothing exciting. I'm not going to be pulling up a price chart, drawing a random triangle or a falling wedge pattern. No, I'm not going to be doing that. But what am I going to be doing? I'm going to be focusing on the fundamentals and just staying patient and just sticking with it. That's it. I treat it like a marathon. It's not a sprint for me. That was kind of my mindset originally anyways. So when I take a look at, okay, XCN is around 50 times lower than 25 cents, but at 25 cents, we're taking a look at a market cap at that point of around 9 billion. And that's if we were to consider the current circulating supply at 25 cents, right? Which, again, if we were to consider that, the market cap at that point would be around $9 billion, right? And the thing is, when I take a look at that market cap right there, like, is that something so outlandish? I've seen Dogecoin pretty much 9 times that, right? 9x that basically back in 2021, approximately. And that was like so long ago, back in 2021. We're in 2026 as of right now. The only difference is that we just haven't seen an altcoin season this time around, whereas we have back then. The thing is also actually at the peak of the 2021 cycle, around 300 million owners for collectively like all the owners within this space at that time, again in 2021. Right now there's over 600 million and we have over 600 million without altcoin season and really without like much sort of going on as of right now. And still there's that many. Granted, it might have been a lot of people still holding from before the pullback, But I'm saying still, like, there's still just way more owners than before. So what happens if there's this many owners right now, and let's say we do see hypothetical altcoin season, wherever or whenever I should say that may hypothetically be? Could it look better than 2021? It wouldn't surprise me if it did, just because of the sheer numbers, right? Just because of the volume, basically. Just way more owners when compared to before. Or should I say way more owners when compared to before? However, also on top of that, Onyx, keep in mind, despite this pullback, by the way, the amount of holders is still around 140,000. So we're not talking about a project that just got completely forgotten about. No, that's not the case. Even with this major pullback, XCN, it's still actually now top 5 within the space of global trade and finance, which again may seem kind of, difficult to think about. But if we think about it, what's having a pullback? XLM, right? We take a look at Stellar, the attention is kind of decreasing a little bit, because of this pullback. Take a look at, for instance, something like XDC, ZBCN, XPR, Swiftcoin. They're all having a pullback. So it's not only just XCN, and because all of them are having a pullback, basically, XCN is still arguably top 5 within the global trade and finance space within this specific space. And, I just kind of feel like if something is still top 5 within its niche, and pretty much a lot of things are having a pullback, am I just going to quit or give up? The answer is no. But this is just personally my mindset, right? This is just my thinking. Because even if, let's say, I'm not saying that this could be accurate, no. I'm just saying, even if hypothetically we assume I have to wait like a year or something like that for a hypothetical altcoin season, we'll wait and see, but I'm just saying, even if that is the case, whether I'm holding or not, I'm still going to be having to live my life anyways, right? I'm going to still have to brush my teeth. I'm still going to have to eat. I'm still going to have to do things, basically, my daily activities, whether or not I'm holding. So I'd rather be holding than not. This is my mindset, because I'd rather be waiting for something as opposed to not. 10 years ago, did I believe in Bitcoin? I was not holding, so the answer was no. However, it still did its thing without me, and also on top of that, had I been holding at that moment, actually, I would have still had to live my life anyways, the same way I did had I not been holding. So sometimes I just like to hold. That's my mindset, because I can't go back in the past, but I can focus on the present. And back then, around 10 years ago, Bitcoin was a lot lower than right now. So what could this look like if there was a hypothetical altcoin season? We'll wait and see. But things, they have to start somewhere, right? Things, sometimes they have to start off low before they could maybe sometimes grow. But that's just a hypothetical scenario. Not every project could do that. But at least I just want to be waiting. And that's my mindset currently. Onyx, sure, it's not going to be the most revolutionary project of all time, but it doesn't really need to anyways. I mean, it's never going to overtake XDC. It's never going to overtake XLM. It's never going to be bigger than Stellar. So, it's not going to be anything groundbreaking, but it doesn't need to be groundbreaking anyways. It's around 50 times lower than 25 cents, right? It's around 50 times lower than around a 9 billion market cap. We're not talking about a project that needs to do, the most revolutionary things of all time to be somewhat significant. Even if we assume, let's say a micro cap or something like that, that has a 100,000 market cap, even if it just goes to a 5 million market cap, that's already a massive sort of action, right? 100,000 is 50 times lower than 5 million. It doesn't need to be the most groundbreaking project, in my perspective, in that hypothetical scenario. Does Onyx need to be either? Arguably not. Again, it's around 50 times lower than 25 cents, but we'll wait and see. That's just my mindset. So all I like to do right now is just wait. That's it. But, I just thought it was pretty delightful news seeing what happened to Chain quite recently. And I just thought that could have maybe some implications for something like Onyx moving forward. So I just thought that was pretty cool, and I just haven't given up. That's pretty much about it. However, I want to say thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And feel free to subscribe if you want to stay tuned for more updates when it comes to Onyx. And feel free to like the video if you liked it. I greatly appreciate it. And I'll see y'all on the next one. It's Mali the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.